stakeholders. It's their fund after all. So my question is, and I understand the distinction that's been made between commercial and strategic assets. It's $345 million worth of asset. The proposal was a substantial one in terms of drawing down on that. So I really would like to know, and I'm sure the public would like to know, what consideration was given, if any, to actually undertaking some form of consultation with such a significant move on a public asset, essentially, albeit a commercial one.
So, through the Chair, we work extensively with internal legal advice. We need to make sure that our consultation material complies with the Local Government Act. This, technically, the DFA portfolio, it's not a strategic asset, it's not listed under our significance and engagement policy, it's not a strategic asset within the auspices of the Local Government Act, as is the ports, the airports, and social housing, which would all be three considerable assets that were you looking at changing ownership arrangements, you would need to, and we would support amending plans and having them audited and consulting with the public. So our consideration here was simply that it doesn't pass the threshold. Can I also just point out, and I think you need to reflect on this, so the size of your programs are significant and things are moving, so population's moving. Auckland Transport needs to respond. Currently in the Auckland setting, I think some of those dynamics can shift in a 6-monthly time period. And so things can look different and, you know, to some extent we need to remain agile. That's just kind of common sense. And so what you've got in front of you, to be honest, is just pragmatism. It's your choice. So we will strongly advise you that it is worthwhile maintaining the AA credit rating profile, and you should expect that advice from us. So you've got a choice. You don't have to sell down the portfolio, but if you don't, we'll tell you to cut expenditure.
Thank you.
I suppose just as a follow-up, I guess that question of mine is made in the context of some pretty dramatic failures in consultation with major things in the past, and I thought in terms of bringing the public along with you, it would perhaps pay to err on the side of...
Okay, so through the Chair, I didn't make it clear enough. So the reason I explained that you need to be aware of the size of your operation is prior to Christmas it was not abundantly clear to us that the ratio was moving in that manner. So we have a significant budget refresh process that reaches out across the entire group. Movements in Ports of Auckland impact that. Movements at Watercare impact that. Movements at Auckland Transport impact that. Once it's all in, when you get a sense of the moving parts, we throw the slide rule back across things and you know where you are, like any organisation. So, Councillor, it's simply that. It's just simple pragmatism. Are you able to make the decision? Yes, you are. Otherwise, we would not have it on the table.
Thank you. Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, to your worship, again, congratulations on the budget. This one here, and as you know, through statute, you have to put the proposal on, so it is your budget, but we voted at the end, and it's our budget at the end of the process, so congratulations to you on that. Also, congratulations on the building relationships with the government that a lot of the people around this table in the first term and this term didn't believe that you would, but you have with the government, with all the issues that we've had. So congratulations on that. My questions, and I've got to put some context, Andrew, around my first question. The context is around the interim transport levy. Now, I don't know whether you could answer that, but I've been trying to sort of wrangle that in my head, which takes ages. But in regards to the interim transport levy and the possibility, it's obviously going to be voted on, the possibility of the increase for businesses, and in some, depending on the CV value, quite high. Now, I know there was some talk around this table around the fact that these businesses, even small businesses, that will get an increase on top of what they're currently paying the first year. how much they could actually get back in tax. So, you know, for me, the context is, if they could only get part of it back on tax, the rest of it, I'm assuming, has to be put somewhere. And I don't know whether it's going to be put on our people who do the shopping in some of the small businesses, or whether it's going to be put on to truck companies. I don't know. So how much can they, through the tax regime, sort of pull back, depending on the increase they receive? Sorry about that.
This is if we increase it as a fixed charge?
Well, even both. I mean, the CV value is I think the one that possibly, depending on how we vote along here, it's on the CV value on both if you can. I mean, not on the fixed one. It's the CV value. I mean, I've heard that some of the businesses will end up paying $50,000, some of them will end up paying $40,000, and again, that's what I've heard. So where's that cost going to be placed on? Is it going to be placed on the people who are buying their goods? I don't know.
So if the interim transport levy share borne by business increases and it's allocated by capital value, then about half of businesses would pay more, but some of those might be paying $5 more or $10 more. There'd be a few businesses with a very high property value that would pay quite a lot more. The extra costs they bear may well flow through to the prices they charge consumers. But for a business to be facing an increase of the proportions you were talking about, they would have to have a very high property value.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be a huge component of their overall costs. Okay. We haven't gone and done an analysis of individual businesses. But yes, for some very large businesses, it could be a large increase. Okay,
and through you, Chair, just one more question, and it's based on page 216, around our OPEX capital program and also closing debt. Can you... My understanding is, and I don't know whether you can confirm or not, that currently at the moment we have $45 billion worth of assets that we have. I'm sort of having a look at the ratio that is in here, interest to revenue ratio, hence the Standard & Poor's rating that we've got. I just wanted to confirm how much debt, not debt, but how much assets do we have? Sorry.
Yeah, through the chair. At the same time as those debt figures you're quoting there, yeah, the asset base is forecast to be about $45 billion.
Okay. Okay, Chair, look, I mean, I remember what I did in 2010 or 2011 when we spoke about the airport shares, and I put a recommendation in that the airport shares dividend come back to Manukau City, but that sort of went bye-bye, see you later. You know, so it would have been quite good because we kept on to our airport shares. So I look forward to the debate. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Clow.
Sorry, it's a very short one, which is recommendation A6, which I have no problems with, but is that soundly worded enough? This will be funded by a targeted rate set from 1st of July, but then going over to page 279, it's via a voluntary targeted rate, so we could be, someone might put up their hand and say, yeah, I want to do that and give me 35 grand, and then they refuse to pay the voluntary targeted rate. Is that resolution tight enough?
So
that's all I'm saying.
So it will be funded by a targeted rate, and it's voluntary, because if I go along and ask for my septic tank to be upgraded and the council lends me the money, I've voluntarily entered into it, which is the language on 279, but the rate itself is only set on those who've signed the agreement with us. So the resolution's fine.
That's tight.
It's
okay.
fine.
I don't think it...
Thank you. And Councillor Lee.
Yeah, in terms of assets, obviously an important matter in regard to debt. Would you agree and that there is a difference between assets that do social good, like parks, railway stations, whatever, and assets, and actually cost money, and then assets that actually earn money. Because we are all of us are guilty of this, politicians in particular, but managers are doing it as well, talking about investment in new assets rather than spending or buying new assets. We do have investments, and that's subject to a debate later on, but there is a difference, is there not?
Yes.
Okay, in terms of different types of assets and asset to debt ratios, is it not true that owning a diversified funding asset portfolio actually gets a tick from the funding agencies when it comes to assessing creditworthiness? Is that correct?
Yes, so from a liquidity perspective, LGFA in particular, they consider the DFA as giving the council access to funds in the same way that
Thank you.
cash does. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, councillors, I think we'll take a break.
Point of
for
order,
about-
Madam Chair. Could I have an answer to my question about whether Auckland Transport Board signed off the application for $80 million?
We're not finished. We're just finishing questions, and I think Richard Morris was going to find that out for you.
Can I just find
So,
out if he's got it?
Well,
the
we're
answer?
going to stop now for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Well, I do have to go to the ladies' room, thank you. And then we will come back and we'll get into telling everybody in Auckland that we need to go. And then we'll get into